Hello to everyone who's joining. My name is Reverend Nancy Talbot. I am the Synod Stated Clerk, and on behalf of the Synod, I welcome you to our Innovation Grant Application webinar. We are recording this evening so that people who were unable to join us will be able to find this on our website. Before I introduce the people who are going to be presenting to you, I wish to just say to you that we will first do our presentation and then open this up for question and answers. We ask that you remain muted during the presentation itself. When we get to questions and answers, we're going to ask you to raise your hand, so your electronic hand, so that one of the three of us are able to see you and answer your questions. So it may appear in different places on your screen. For some people, your raise hand feature may be under your reactions button. For others of you, you may have to go to more with the three dots and find it there. But nonetheless, you should be able to find it one of those three ways. Okay, so let us begin. I'd like to start by introducing Cindy Berger. Cindy, you want to raise your hand? Cindy is the convener of the Mission Working Group, which is one of the three working groups of the Synod Commission, which is the Synod's Council. And it is the Mission Working Group that reviews all grant applications that come in a certain area. She'll talk about that later. They are the ones who review all the grant applications and make recommendations to the full commission as to which applications to fund and at what level. So she will be part of our presentation tonight. And Sarah, are you on screen yet?
Yep.
I know. There you are. Sarah Hankel is the Synod's grants coordinator, and she will be doing the primary bulk of the presentation tonight. So welcome. I hope you find this informative, and we look forward to your questions at the end of the presentation. Cindy, why don't we begin with you about just giving us your Mission Working Group grant overview.
Thank you, Nancy. Hello, everyone. As Nancy said, I'm the convener of the Mission Working Group, and our primary task is to review all the grant applications that come in. Tonight, we're looking at the Innovation Grant Fund. Those grants will be awarded in late April. But there are three other funds that the Mission Working Group has access to and makes recommendations for. In September, we will be reviewing applications for grants for emerging gospel communities. And then in January, we review grant applications for campus ministry programs and youth and young adult leadership development programs. And then again, here in April, we'll be doing innovation grants. I encourage you all to look at the Synod website and review the criteria for all four of these grant funding streams. And you'll see the criteria, what it is we're looking to do, and also the actual applications. And at any time, if there are any questions anyone has, please reach out to the Synod, either to myself as convener, Sarah Hankel as our grants coordinator, or Nancy Talbot as our stated.
Thank you, Cindy. Sarah, would you like to continue, please?
Sure. I am going to very briefly take you through the innovation grant criteria. That is, again, all up on the website on the Synod northeast.org, ne.org. But briefly want to run through it just so you have it in mind as we review the application. And I apologize if I'm looking in a million directions. I have two devices going and I can't quite remember which, but I see you all and I'm glad you're here. The innovation grant provides up to $20,000 in funding for up to 2 years, so $20,000 per year. The criteria is that it be for a new or recently launched innovative, creative, or entrepreneurial initiative in a Presbyterian congregation or an organization or a consortium of people that are connected into Presbyterian communities. We are looking for projects that mobilize the Presbyterian community to engage with neighbors and the needs of the world in a way that will bring a fresh experience of Christ's love to both the local and Presbyterian communities. So looking at building those coalitions in the local places where we are planted. Something that exhibits an experimental edge that will provide a source of learning for both for those living it out and also the larger synod community. So one way to look at these is like an incubator, right? The projects that you take on that are initiative become a kind of learning lab for the larger synod. We're looking for things that are team-led, with an emphasis on connection and partnership that extend beyond one organization or one congregation. We are looking for projects that embody synod values, and I'll go through those in a little bit more detail when we go over the application. But those values being community, diversity and inclusion, missional identity, and partnership. And then finally, we are looking for a clear project budget. And again, more on that when I go in a kind of walk through the application, a tour of the application. I did want to point out a few red flags that we have listed in the criteria. The commissioners, as they review your applications, are watching for applications that seem to focus solely on the work of one inspiring individual rather than a strong community or core team of participants. So again, really emphasizing working in coalition and partnership. The commissioners do not like to fund projects that focus on funding for ongoing staff salaries as much as we would like to. I think the commissioners all understand that is a need for many faith communities, but these are for projects and not for ongoing staff salaries. Finally, applications that are seeking funding for building projects that are intended as a kind of, if we build it, they will come model. So there are times when the commissioners have funded renovations for a ministry that has already proven to have, be on the ground and running, but just needs some tweaks to the space. We see the commissioners see that as very different than, for example, we're going to build a fancy new community center and then see if anybody wants to come. So that's the distinction that the commissioners make. So looking for funding that is motivated by projects that are already underway or have a track record to succeed. I think I got all the criteria. Cindy or Nancy, is there anything that you would like to add to that? Again, all of that is online. There's a link where you can download the full criteria sheet. And that criteria sheet is the one that commissioners use as they review applications. So there's check boxes and they just look through the application according to those points in the criteria. Okay, now we're going to go traveling. We will look at the new grants portal. And first going to bring you I have to share phone. So this is the innovation grant page on the Synod of the Northeast. This is again where the application criteria lives. You can download the full list right here. There is also a place where you can preview this application, as well as all of the other open or soon to be open. So if they are closed for this year, they'll still be up there because they'll be open again next year. But you can preview all of the funding opportunities through the Synod. This is a very new thing that we're able to offer. And so I invite you to go through and read all of the funding opportunities that exist through the Synod. When you go into the innovation grant and click preview, up on the right-hand side here is this question list. And this is where you can generate a full list of the questions. Right now, if you can't access the full application here because you have to select if you're a first-time or second-time applicant to open up the full list of questions. But up here, when you click question list, this will generate a full PDF that you can download and print. If you're somebody who likes to kind of look at something before they dive in and create your own login and everything for the grants portal. So this lists the entire application. So again, back on this page, if you say you're ready, I'm ready to dive in and apply now. You click on the button and you'll be prompted to create a simple registration. I'm going to log in now. I'm not going to walk you through that process. It is fairly simple. Anybody want to chime in and say that it worked for them? Oh no. I know a lot of you are already in there. I will be walking you through as an administrator in a minute, but for now, I'll go to the applicant view. This is what you would see once you've logged in. The only small piece of information you need as you create your login and your account in the system is to have your congregation or organization's tax ID ready to go. That's kind of the only piece of information that you may not have memorized. So have that ready to go as part of the registration process, and that's what enables us eventually to distribute funds if they are awarded. When you get into the grants portal, you'll be on a page that looks a lot like this. And when you get in, you click apply, and here you have the innovation grant, and you would click apply here. I will walk you through this, but I'm going to change my view just quickly here to be administrator so that we have kind of a fully open view of the application without having to actually fill it out. Okay, so here we are. You'll be asked to have a project ministry name. And so this is different than your congregational name. It's a project name for the initiative that you are applying for funds for. You will indicate whether you're a first-time applicant or a second-time applicant and the amount of funding that you're requesting. We are collecting information on whether your congregation or organization has previously received funds through the Synod grant programs, any of them, not just the innovation grant. This is for our information and just to understand how different congregants and organizations are accessing these funding opportunities. Then we ask for a vision statement. So this is basically a brief, compelling, and simply stated summary of what it is that you're trying to do with the innovation grant funds. Did you lose my picture? Sorry about that. I'm still here and you can still hear me, but you might not see me for a minute. Basically, once you have a summary statement that you can easily communicate of what you are doing and what you're hoping to do and why it matters, in my experience, your application is at least halfway written. We want to see that you can communicate this clearly and quickly. And so this is a little bit of a challenge. You've got 600 characters, which is just about 150 words to tell us your elevator pitch, basically. What is your vision for this initiative? If you selected that you did receive previous Synod funding, this box will open and you can describe what that was. But for now, we're going into first-time applicants. The first question is, how did this vision come to you and your community? So we are asking for you to describe what the process was of arriving at this vision. So whether there was a discernment process between leaders of your congregation and members of the broader community, a needs assessment that you conducted, a newly formed coalition of community leaders that your congregation was a part of, we want to hear how you got to the vision and that you did it with care. So this is your opportunity to describe that. We also asked in this question for you to describe what your timeline is. The commissioners understand that not every innovative new project is going to be a thing that grows into a 10-year initiative, right? Some of these may be short-lived, and maybe it's something that you want to do over the course of just 2 years with the congregation and the community. It's a partnership that's only intended to be that short. That's okay. We just want to know what the vision is for the timeline. Next, who are you serving through your project and ministry? Who are the people who are going to benefit, and why does your ministry matter to their lives? The commissioners are especially looking for how the transformation will occur both directions, right? Both the leaders of the project and those who are participants. How is this project going to transform those who are involved in it? How does this project matter in the lives of those involved? And then we ask perhaps the signature question of the innovation grant. How is this project innovative? And the commissioners recognize that innovation can be a gray area, right? What is new to one congregation or group of people may not be that new to another. But this is your opportunity in this question to tell us how this project for you and for the leaders that it represents is reaching beyond a previous limit in the congregation or maybe in the community. Tell us how this is new to you and to those you are inviting in, and what you hope will be learned by this stretch towards a new thing. How is it innovative to you? Next, a question about leadership and partnerships. Who is coordinating this ministry and who this ministry is connecting to more broadly in partnership? Words like coalition, community, networking are wonderful here to demonstrate that this is not a siloed initiative, but rather something that is extending the reach of the congregation or the outreach of the congregation or the organization more broadly. This question on measuring success is a question where we are asking you to be very specific. This is the opportunity to explain with concrete details the desired outcomes of the project and how you plan to track your progress towards your goals. We would like you to be as concrete and as specific as possible. This is not the moment for flowery language or theological statements, but to say, if you're familiar with SMART goals, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-based, that's what that acronym is. If you don't know them, go ahead and look them up. They're wonderful to have before you throughout the entire application process, but especially as you answered this question, looking at how you plan to track your progress and what success will look like in your project. We have a question here, as I mentioned, on Synod values and how this project aligns with Synod values. If you've applied for other funds, you know that one of the first tips you may have heard is that you should get in the head of your funder. You should know what motivates them. And so this is the Synod's hint. You all probably know this already, many of these points already as members of the Synod. But as much as you can draw connections between these Synod values and the initiative that you're doing, your answer will be strengthened. I'm not going to go deeply into the year 2 application, assuming that many of you on the call are either thinking of applying or just curious and not returning for a second year application. But the second year application, again, we'll look at what you've done through the past year, but also help chart a vision forward and ask your information on that if you have year 2 specific questions, do feel free to get in touch with me. I'm going to come back to this presbytery question and go to the financial matters to talk briefly about the budget. What we are looking for in a budget is something that shows the project budget and not the full financial picture of your congregation or organization. The commissioners don't want to have to weed through every single line item from your congregation to find where the little project budget line is. So you can see this as a kind of zoom in on the project budget for what you're proposing or requesting funds for from the innovation grant funds. A good budget will be balanced between the income and expenditure lines. And the budget should include the requested funds from the synod. And you can note that they're requested, not guaranteed yet. And you may include in-kind numbers. And we do want to show you one sample budget. We have a couple linked in here, but we've updated them since then. And we've got one that's more specific to the innovation grant. Is the sample budget showing? Can I get a thumbs up?
I'm sorry, yes, it is.
Okay,
it is
great.
there.
Super. So the sample budget here shows just a listing of the project expenditures. You'll note in here, it lists, for example, the percentage of staff support from the associate pastor who will be managing this project from the congregation. I'm pointing that out because you'll see who's funding that in the bottom line. But just a very clear listing of the proposed expenditures for the project that equals out to $20,000 here. And then for the project income, you'll see the requested Synod of the Northeast funds, $12,000. You'll see that the $4,200 for the staff salary, 10%, was contributed by the congregation. And then the congregation also offered in-kind donation of the printing supplies and use of the copier for that budget line item, the expenditure above 900. And then also indicates that there's other funding opportunities being explored, or in this case, they've already been secured. There was a community Kickstarter fundraiser for the community garden, and that brought in $2,900 towards the project. It always is wonderful, if possible, to show the commissioners that there are other organizations or other community members, individuals, the presbytery, for example, who are also partners in funding the initiative. Okay, speaking of presbytery, I did want to walk through one final piece here, which is that when you are applying, you will be asked to draft an email within the application to your presbytery leader. There is a sample template of an email that you can send, or you can draft your own. We ask that you include your innovation grant project name, the congregation or organization's name that's applying, and then the vision statement for your project or ministry, or whatever words you choose to, a basic summary of the project or ministry that you are proposing. We have a sample email template that you can just fill out here, and then you'll enter the name of the email address rather of your presbyter and compose that email and send it within the system. When that presbyter receives, or actually when this application is submitted, it triggers an email to your presbyter, and they will receive a set of questions that they are asked to fill out, and they will become part of your application. The applicant will not see the responses from the presbyter, but all presbyters will be asked to weigh in on the application. The synod's reasoning for this is so that we build in partnership, right? We want to know that presbyteries are aware of the grant applications coming out of their presbytery. And it's another opportunity if your presbytery does not know about your application. It's a great reminder to let them know so that they may also be partners in the work that you're doing. And the questionnaire, recognizing that presbyters are very busy, is not lengthy. And It's just a few brief questions. Are you aware of this project or ministry located within the bounds of your presbytery? Has this project or ministry received financial or other support from the presbytery? And then finally, do you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding this project ministry? Like 100, almost 100% what we get in this paragraph is presbyters sharing some glowing reports of the work that is being done in their presbytery and encouragement for funding. You as the applicant will also have the opportunity to say yourself how you have connected to the presbytery through your organization or congregation. So you can describe that relationship yourself here. And then finally, there's a section for supporting media. Now, I want to speak first about photos. Photos make a huge difference. Commissioners are reading a lot of text, and so a photo can really set an application apart, especially if they are high quality. So this is a good reminder to anyone starting a new initiative or project and seeking funding. Keep in mind that you want to capture high quality photos of events that you have, meetings that you have, even find the person with the best camera phone and just assign them that task, make sure that it happens. And don't hesitate to stage photos. Sometimes at events, they're harried and crazy and you don't get quite the picture you want. Be prepared to gather the elements of the project that you are doing for the community garden project. Pick up packets of seeds, ask your volunteers to just hold them, stage the photos so that the commissioners can see the elements of the project that you are carrying out. Or if you're transforming a space to initiate this new project, do before and after pictures, show the transformation and how it's ongoing within your congregation or organization. You will need these photos, at least one, for your application, but also for your progress report. So they are required for your application and progress report both. You may also share, in addition to a photo, a video or a news article or other relevant supporting material. Number of people have shared for example, like a local news release or press release for the event related to their initiative, or even some of the documents related to if it's an initiative of a coalition, some of those documents that the coalition is drafting together. There's lots of opportunity to share those here. And also if you have social media accounts that you want to point the commissioners to, you can do that as well. And then finally, a little spot where you can add comments that you may have. And then if we were on the applicant view, which we're not, but there would be a little box down here that you would click to submit, and it's that simple. You will receive a notification once it's been submitted, an email immediately informing you that it's been received. And you are able to come in and edit this application as many times as you want until the due date, which is April 8th. Any of you who are veterans of our former grants system know that that was not the case with our old system. It was kind of a one-shot deal. You had to fill out the whole thing and just hope that your network didn't freeze or anything, or you had to start all over again. So the Synod is very glad to offer you a way less stressful application process. That's all for me for now. So I'm going to hand it back to Nancy.
Okay, just before questions, I wanted to go over some final tips for strong grant writing. For 10 years before I went to seminary, I was responsible for a small federal agency that funded AmeriCorps programs, if any of you are familiar with them, or Learn to Serve America programs. I was the person who was responsible for the nationwide grant application reviews. and training people to review these applications. And so through that process, I learned, and through reading a number of grants, we all on staff learned that there are things that are key to writing a strong grant application. The first is to review the criteria often when you're writing your application. You want to make sure that your application matches the criteria as much as possible, because the commission members are going to be reviewing that criteria while they are reading your applications. So the more that you can keep this in front of you, don't read it just one time and think, great, I got it, and then go off and write your application, because by the end you may have strayed from what the actual criteria is. One that seems so obvious, but you'd be surprised how many times it gets neglected, is answer the questions you're being asked. You would be surprised how many people write a good, even compelling application, but it doesn't answer the specific questions asked by the funder. And again, that's what the commission members are going to be looking for, is the answers to your questions. All parts of the application need to be in sync with one another. The vision needs to reflect the project or program. The project or program needs to line up with all the answers to the questions. The measures of success must be in line with the vision and how the project is described. Excuse me, I'm going to try to turn this off. The budget must relate specifically to the project. As an example, with this budget that you saw briefly about the community garden, obvious line items to creating a community garden could be things such as tools, soil, seeds, fencing, advertising, printing, notices, and also any of your in-kind amounts that you have for various organizations or the church that is providing some of what needs to fill out this program. But if you include something, and I know this sounds far-fetched, I couldn't think of a better example, I'm sorry, but if you include something like snacks for Sunday school or playground equipment, obviously that does not relate to the project or program that you are unfolding here. So the budget needs to be very tight and show that you've thought about it in relation to what is needed to start and keep this project going. And my final suggestion is that when you have your final draft, give it to someone you know is a good writer, but has no knowledge of your proposed project. Once they have read it, ask them what they understand the project or program to be. What questions do they have, or what could be clearer? Is the vision clear and succinct? Do the measures of success match the vision and intentions of the project or program? Is the budget in line with the proposal? To ask this of someone who's not familiar with all the work that you've put in can help you in your final days make this even tighter, so that you feel when you submit it, you've done the best job you can to represent what it is that you're proposing to do. Okay, I think we are ready to open this up for questions and answers. And Sarah, I'm going to ask you to moderate this part, but Cindy, feel free to jump in. And don't forget to raise your hands electronically. Evan, who is working today as our IT person, if someone is not being noticed, call on them. Okay, I'm coming.
Sure. Invite Linwood to go first.
Hello there. The question I have is that who can I speak to? I looked at my notes from 2015 and 17. There were uh applications, but I don't remember from other people, but I don't remember that my church ever submitting one. So how can I find it if we're first or second year? And then um our church has started a brand new, we started something brand new, wipe the slate clean and starting something, a new church, the same church, but new things that we're doing, new way of doing it. So how new is new? I think we're innovative, but how new we have to be new. January, we just, really started the new thing with the presbytery.
I'll
in
go
the
in
session.
reverse order. That's plenty new. Again, I
Okay.
think with the definition of innovation, new is also somewhat relative. Sometimes it can be beneficial to have a year under the belt of a project. It doesn't have to be brand new. Certainly a year old something or other is still very new. And then your first question, yeah, I just want to point out to everybody that the innovation grant funds have been in existence for a while now. So this question is coming up more often. Like, has my congregation applied before? Often there's change of staff or new people who come into leadership, and so some of that institutional memory is hard to track down in congregations. And I am glad. Why don't we follow up, Linwood? I can look. But I also want to say that, for example, I think we spoke about this, Linwood, a little bit, but that it may have been for an entirely different project, and now 2015, it definitely was. And 2015 to what year are we? That's almost nine years ago. That a congregation in a completely different state now, right? It's
Yes.
9 years have passed, it's a different project, would be eligible to apply again with a new project. So I just wanted
Okay. I'm even debating, should we go to emerging or innovative? But I'll talk to you about that later. I don't want to
Okay.
take
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Linwood. I
All
see
right. Thank you.
Hannah next.
Thank you.
I would just say that when I read the application and criteria, if it's a new project, then you're a first year applicant. The second year means you've already gotten funding the first year for it. So even though you may have done something 2 or 3, 4, 5 years ago, if this is a brand new, different project, then you're a first year applicant.
Yeah, that's a helpful distinction. Thank you, Cindy. Go ahead, Hannah.
Hi, I heard that staff salaries are not won't be supported. But if the project is using a consultant to help lead the conversation, would that be supported or not?
I think the answer is yes, and I'll also ask Cindy to chime in on this. I think we have in the past seen applications that like the entire application was for a consultation fee, and that felt like I remember the commissioners having conversation that felt a little troubling because the whole funding was to see if the project could go forward, right? It wasn't for the project, it was, and we also understand that that consultation work is really essential sometimes for larger scale projects. Cindy, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's correct, Sarah. If the consultation fee is a portion of the project, but not all of the project or even half of it, then yeah, the commissioners are going to take that into account. It sometimes is really helpful to have outside expertise telling you whether this is a viable idea or not. And again, as you're working on it, if you just really aren't sure, then contact Sarah and ask her to kick it around with you.
Thank you.
Sure. Laura?
I apologize for being upside down, but I
mean,
don't
it's
want to.
impressive. Don't
I don't want to
apologize.
lose you. So my question is in connection with the media and photos. At Rutgers Church, we have an asylum clinic. And we especially do not take pictures of our families or their children. So I'm not quite sure what we would do with that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I brought up like staging photos. So there are ways to protect people's anonymity, and obviously we would agree with you that protecting that level of security and safety is really important. So like even a hand, poised over like one of those awful, I guess people apply online for immigration things now. I'm old.
So we could
but-
do, sorry, we
Yeah.
could do something like we have 10 tables that are put together every week for the asylum clinic. So we could do their backs, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, right. Just
Yeah,
get
okay.
creative. Something,
Yeah.
that's why staging is helpful in thinking it through, not
Yeah,
just
there-
assuming that
there's-
it'll be like easy to find that shot, right?
We're just showing the space. You say 10
Sorry,
tables.
sorry about that. I accidentally muted the wrong person.
Nope, no problem.
Um, it seems to me a picture of showing the setup with no people in it. Helpful.
Yeah,
This is what
okay.
we do with our 10 tables. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even the
Okay.
back of somebody can be identifiable. So I would be real cautious about including people unless they're way at a distance or something.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Rachel.
Hi, I kept hearing you all refer to churches, and the application says it's also for organizations. So I am a teaching elder in the Presbytery of Susquehanna Valley, but I work as a chaplain through the Broome County Council Churches. This gets even more complicated with United Health Systems, which is our local hospital system. So we're talking about doing a project that would be in collaboration with some of our local Presbyterian churches, the Broome County Council churches, and UHS. But I just want to make sure that before we start chipping
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, I
that
tried to always add organization when I said congregation, but I think I revert back to saying congregation in some moments. But yes, no, I mean, especially that type of coalition work is exactly, I think, what innovation grants are hopeful about, right? So it's something that's pulling together local congregations with the United, I'm going to get the name wrong, but United Health Services, and for a community initiative would certainly be eligible. We do ask that you be kind of explicit about like the connection back into a Presbyterian congregation or group of congregations.
Well, it would be a group of congregations because I'm a chaplain, so I don't serve at a, that's fine.
It doesn't
Right.
have to be one that you
That-
serve at, but just that is involved in if there's a coalition of churches that includes one or more Presbyterian churches, just to be explicit about that connection to them.
Okay. And then my secondary question is, we have some staff members that would be working on this, and that's what we're hoping for, but I hear you saying like you can't build anything into like a budget to oversee a project. Is that how I understood what you were saying? I just want clarification because it would be helpful to have a little bit of that, but if that's not what the grant purpose is for, I want to make sure that we're following that too.
Cindy, do you want to take that one?
So I think what I hear you saying, Rachel, is as you work out your budget, you're going to have a line that says some support for a staff person, their time working on this. If it's a small part of it, I don't see that would be a problem. I mean, if it starts to be like 50%, 70%, then it's like, well, this is a little not quite what we're looking for. But
Okay.
if you have somebody that you want to involve and they really can't do it as a volunteer, they need to do it as part of their paid job, and figure out how many hours you're looking to have them do that, And that would be a line in your budget.
Okay.
I
Thank
also want to take a moment to say to all of you that the maximum grant, the maximum amount for an innovation grant is $20,000. But don't just automatically plug in $20,000. If you don't need that much, then don't ask for that much, because we have a limited budget. And typically we have way more requests than we have the money for. So if you can, work your project and your budget so that you're not asking for a full 20,000, that's wonderful. Certainly ask for it if that's what you need, but be aware that we can't give everybody $20,000, generally.
Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it.
Karen.
Thank you. So actually, my question was similar to Rachel's, and I appreciated Cindy's answer. The Nassau Presbyterian Church in Westminster have started a wonderful project, Trenton Microloan Collaborative for returning citizens. And we're looking to scale up because we've been doing all volunteer work. And we've been able to serve 9 returning citizens so far. So when I spoke to someone earlier, I understood that there could be some money for us to have some staff to scale up, because it's very hard to find this kind of funding elsewhere. And we were hoping that the Synod would catch the vision of ministering to returning citizens and partner with us. So if I heard Cindy correctly, what we need to look at is what the percentage is of the ask. It can't be all for staff, but if we can articulate why we need staff now, because this is a project that's only got 3 years under its belt, and we need to go to the next level. I appreciated you articulating, Cindy, that it shouldn't be that I hear more than 50% for staff.
Definitely. 50%, I think that would give the commissioners pause. But it depends on how your overall project, how we understand it, I guess. I guess the other thing I would say is you are pitching an idea to a group of people who probably know next to nothing about where you are, who you are, what you want to do. So you assume we know nothing. So you need to make the strongest presentation you possibly can come up with to convince us to recommend to the full commission, this group needs these dollars because they're doing wonderful work and we understand what they want to do. But be real clear.
Thanks, Karen. Althelia?
Yes, hi. Thank you for this this information today. I guess I had 2 questions because my chat's not working. This is being recorded. Will we get the link for it?
Yes, that's my understanding. Nancy, do you know if they'll send out automatically to anybody who registered?
I'm happy to do that. If you all think that would be helpful, I'm happy to do that. Just
Okay.
give us a couple of days to get it out to you, okay? Because we're
Okay.
short-staffed right now, but yes, I'm happy to do that.
All right,
Okay.
that was one question. The
Email
second,
addresses.
I'm sorry. The second one, my second question was, if we needed to talk to someone, we could just contact the Synod office. Is that correct?
Yeah, you should contact me. My info is on almost all the grant web pages. So on innovation, it would be there, but I can say it aloud now too. It's innovation@synodne.org, and please do feel free to reach out.
Okay. And the last point was just what my other colleague was saying with regard to staff. So if you had a project or have a project that you've been kind of created and been working with, but part of the issue is staff for expansion, staff should be no more than 50% of the project?
I just tossed that out. I mean, that's not a hard and fast rule.
Okay.
It's going to depend on the overall picture of your project. Don't get hung up on percentages.
All right.
Do
I
know
jump-
that- Yeah.
jump in here and just say, I think, based on Cindy's other comments, I think it's contextual in the sense that the maximum that you could receive is $20,000 2 years in a row. So that's not going to fund anybody's, I mean, not a lot of anybody's salary. And so I think the commissioners are hesitant when they see a budget that looks like it's primarily to fund a staff position, recognizing that the timeline of Synod funding through an innovation grant is very short. And, you know, it is not going to enable like a ongoing staff position. So the language in the criteria is ongoing staff positions. Now, if there's, and what Cindy said, if there's a percentage of a salary that goes towards a staff, like needing to bump up their work hours towards this new initiative, that's seen really differently. Kind of the same way that the commissioners view the building projects, right? They have funded, you know, renovations that needed to happen in order to continue a ministry that was already underway, like a new initiative that was already underway. And they have not funded projects that were requesting funds to build something entirely new in the hopes that it would begin a new ministry. So it can be a subtle distinction, but I hope that helps kind of tease the two apart.
Oh, okay. And in our situation, it's more volunteers than staff. So for us, it would be more of a stipend, not putting on payroll in any sense.
Yeah. And I think that would be seen very differently by the commissioners.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Leah. Donald.
Muted.
Well, there's a whole group with Donald.
Hi, I'm George. I'm standing in for Don.
Hi.
We have there's a backpack project in a local school that actually takes certain kids from a certain family, fills up backpacks with food and supplies the children in the family with food for the weekend.
Yeah.
And we're looking to develop a relationship and being able to help fund that program and supply food. Is that something that would qualify for a help assistance from Presbytery or Synod?
So I think a couple things would be really important. Certainly encourage everyone to apply. That's not a guarantee of funding, but we encourage everyone to apply. But a couple things that you would want to highlight with that project is how it represents a new initiative for your congregation and how you expect your congregation to be transformed, as well as how it would transform the ability of the school to offer this service to the community. For example, is there a way that that you all would be connecting more directly with some of the families receiving these backpacks? That certainly would, I think, shift the nature of the application. What commissioners would be hesitant to fund is something that just looks like a pass-through, right? So like that you were receiving money so that you could give the money to this project. The commissioners are not looking to kind of fund the mission giving of a congregation. If that, does that seem clear?
Well, yes, but
Yeah.
this is something new that we're looking into. We haven't done this.
Yeah.
before. We operate a meal program now, which my next question is, we have two programs. One is a lunch program. We supply about 150 sandwiches twice a week, along with
Wow.
fruit and other things that go with the lunches. And we deliver quite a bit of it to the people that cannot get out of their homes, the people who don't have enough money, the homeless people who are living underneath the bridges around here. And we're looking to expand that program. We have a local corporation here who's just gone out of business. There's 250 employees plus their families that are now jobless. And
Wow.
we're gonna be probably inundated with that also. So to expand our program, is this something that, that you could help us with, financially? We're also, advertising in the county now for trying to get a hold of these people who, don't know what we have to offer. We're trying to expand our, advertising.
I have a question in regards to the backpack program. If we were to partner with the existing program, but try to go into the other schools, would that help?
Yeah, I think as much as you can demonstrate that this is, I mean, again, this is the gray innovation area, right? And you've named 2 projects that you're already engaged in, or the second one was. So just you need to be really clear in the application about why this is kind of a new growing edge for the congregation. Like there's a deepening connection with the community, or I'm not sure, I'm just making up things now, but
Yeah, we haven't really reached out to the kids through the schools. That's never happened. We're just out in the community right now.
Well, and I'd be glad too to get into more specifics with you all if you want to schedule a call with me and just kind of I can listen carefully and kind of help identify the best angle to take with an application. I'd be glad to do that.
This is a short timeline for the
Yeah, I know. We tried to move it as far away from Easter as possible. That's as good as we got this year.
One more question for me is that we
Sure.
also run a hot dinner program. This stuff is all free of charge, so we don't charge anything for the sandwiches, the lunches, or the dinners. The dinners we have twice a month, and it's a home cooked meal for 100 to 120 people. We have to get some new equipment, refrigerators, freezers, and in order to do that, we also have to have some new electric outlets and other electronic devices put in so we can safely plug these freezers and refrigerators into it. Now, is that part of something that could qualify for some help?
Yeah, it could. And so I'd be glad to talk through it. I think what we could talk about is kind of where the growing edge is for your church, not just that you need more space or more funding, but how this is shifting the focus of your congregation and how that might be reflected more deeply within the congregation and the time that you spend together, whether in worship, so in your community outreach. So I'd be glad to kind of pick through that with you all and see if we could find
I think our budget would probably reflect a lot of that for you.
Yeah.
I just wanna
Probably answer a lot of questions.
I want to jump in here and say that what Sarah is talking about now is highly nuanced. And it does require you to have a conversation because there needs to be a difference between what does it mean to expand an existing program. It's hard to justify that expanding an existing program is innovative because it's something that's already being done. So what Sarah tonight has tried to do is really nuance that question. And so she's happy to do that with you, but you need to think about the difference between what is really innovative here and what is expanding on what we've already done.
Yeah. I know we're coming up against the deadline, and I see 2 more hands in line. I can go a couple of minutes over, but understand that if people need to sign off, you can, and you will receive the link to the full recording. Let's go ahead.
Well, let me just jump in too. Hearing you talk about enlarging or improving your kitchen there for the community meal, look out for other organizations in town. For instance, the Rotary clubs. Where I live, the Rotary Club, the district has grants for exactly what you were just describing. So if it doesn't work for a Synod grant, it might work for another nonprofit that has grants. So
We are soliciting other grants from several other places.
Wonderful.
Last year, we exceeded our budget by $10,000 in expenses. So this year we had to cut out our part of our program in order to come up with a decent budget. So we're
Well, I
$10,000
want to thank
that-
you all for the feeding ministry that you all are carrying out, and I let's do be in touch with me. I hope you will.
Yes.
I'm gonna move to Kathy.
Hi, it's just a real quick question because you have the innovative grants and you also have the emerging grant. Is there any kind of restriction if your particular project would fall under both parameters that you would not be eligible for both?
This
I
is where
see.
that nuance comes into play that Nancy was mentioning. Once you start thinking about it, things are either an innovation or an emerging gospel community. The emerging gospel community, it's a new group that's forming and doing good work. They may be doing innovative things, but if it's the new group, then that might be the better place to apply. But here's where Sarah can really help you figure that out.
Yeah, the emerging gospel communities really are intended to almost mirror the 1001 New Worshiping Communities grants that the Presbyterian Mission Agency offers. So they really are looking at things that are gathering together a worshiping community, which often is different than an innovation grant or an innovative project. Though you're absolutely right that there are times when an organization or a group of people could qualify under the criteria of both. That I generally think that because both grants are so competitive, it is unlikely that the commissioners would fund the same grouping of people with both grants simultaneously. That said, we have had emerging gospel community recipients who, formed a worshiping community and then several years later applied for an innovation grant, right? And because then they were an established community and they were doing something innovative. So I think the answer comes more down to like in the competitive nature of the funds, that it would be unlikely that that the commissioners would decide to award funds from both funds to one organizational applicant. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Reverend Ladina.
It's LaDonna, Reverend LaDonna. Yes, no worries, no worries. My question is, I guess being clear that you want to tie the innovative grant back to the ministry. Like for instance, I'm an outreach hip hop for life pastor, and I'm working on connecting hip hop culture, spirituality, education, and also making it therapeutic for students in high school and colleges. And of course, when you're dealing with schools and colleges, you also have the element of separation of church and state, that kind of thing. So I would have to, in some cases, set up a program that wants to get them involved in creating a platform that has nothing to do with violence, murder, low-rating women, lyrical content, in order to build a relationship with those communities. So I'm just trying to be clear. I know in the emerging grant, that's tied to worship and the gospel and stuff like that. But in the innovative grant, where you would be where myself would be collaborating with colleges or schools, even prisons or veterans or something like that, is if you can kind of give me an idea what a project like that fall under the innovative grant.
Yeah, I think it definitely could. And just based on your brief description, I would say that what the commissioners would be looking for is your leadership team, right? And if that leadership team included members of local Presbyterian churches that you're connected to, not that it has to be an explicit like labeled ministry of this congregation, but rather that it's something that is transforming the membership of Presbyterian churches as well as the people that you're reaching out to. I think that you would need to emphasize that to come under the kind of consortium coalition leadership that the commissioners are looking for, and to show that it's tied back into the Presbyterian community as well.
Okay, well, it's about building bridges and meeting needs. And I'm just trying to be clear because, you know, ministry is a part of human beings' life, but it's not all of it. You know, just as I listened to the people who are working on the backpacks and stuff like that, you know, it's sad that today that the church is having to engage in that capacity for what maybe states or local governments are not doing. But we have to get involved in that process. And that process may not always have scriptures or Jesus connected to it. So, you know, I'm just concerned about how to approach this writing this grant, knowing in mind that I'm showing up as the reverend, so most definitely, and that the ministry is a part of reaching out to these young people. So to me, that's directly connected to the Presbyterian. I'm also a Presbyterian and as well, and an associate minister of the Presbyterian Church. So, you know, that's the main connection. And I also work with other Presbyterians and stuff in what they're trying to do. So, you know, I just wanted to emphasize that a lot of this work that we have to do with human beings, you know, is not always going to be directly connected or directly have certain ministerial things on it. It's human life that we have to also deal with on a day-to-day basis. You know, I can't imagine 200 people being out of work, and we're as a church not having the resources that we need to assist them, not forever, but in this time. So
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend LaDonna. And I think again, feel free to reach out to me, and again, just emphasizing your leadership team. And if it sounds to me, the more congregants you can bring with you into the work, the better. It doesn't have to go back to like worship in the congregation, but bringing people from the congregation into the work that's so desperately needed for all humans right now.
That hit it. That you just hit it. Okay, I just got it. The light just went on.
All right, cool.
bringing other people into the work, which is the bridge between the church and the work or the project.
Yeah.
Boom. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, take care. Greg, I see.
Just a quick question. You mentioned new worshiping communities. I'm a leader of a new worshiping community in the Utica Presbytery. And one of the things I would like to do is to be able to get a van. We're an outdoor ministry. I'd like to be able to get a van, for instance, to bring people up to the Adirondacks or out to a pond to fish or any of those sorts of things. Would that be something that you believe the innovation grant might work towards, or would I put that under the emerging? And also, is the fact that we have already received a PCUSA missions grant a feather in our cap in order to make that happen? Do you see that as something that the commissioners might look at favorably?
I would definitely say that if this is for kind of ongoing building of the emerging gospel community or new worshiping community that you're a part of, that it would make sense to put it under. I mean, especially if there was new worship aspects that are enabled by the use of a van. We could talk more about details. But to your second question, yes, absolutely. Commissioners love to see that the new worshiping community, or in their case, the emerging gospel community, has already been approved by the PMA through the 1001 New Worshiping Communities process. In some ways, it's been able to offer kind of a matching grant if it times that way. It doesn't always. Some new worshiping communities or emerging gospel communities have used that funding to kind of experiment with, is this a thing? Before they apply for PMA 1001 New Worshiping Communities funding. So it's the Synod funding on that front has entered at different phases depending on the ministry. But yes, they are always glad to see that they're partnering.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I think we've exhausted the hands.
Okay, it looks like we've come to the end of our questions. So, as we've said over and over again, and as Sarah has offered, she is available to you during this process. And as she also said on our website, it lets you know the various timelines for the various grants. We do this year round so that this mission working group is reviewing a set of grants at each one of our meetings. And it staggers everything that's going on. But Sarah is available whenever to answer your questions. If any of you joined us late, I saw some people entering. I know that we're competing with other responsibilities you have, but as we said in the beginning, we have recorded this. In a couple of days, it will go up on the Synod's website, and I will also make sure that we send it to all of you who attended this webinar, so that if you want to go back and listen to any part of it, you are welcome to do so. We want to thank you for joining us. We had no idea whether this would be of interest to a few or many. It turned out to be an interest to many, and we're delighted that you took this time to be with us this evening. And wish you well if you either end up applying for the innovation grant due April 8th, or whether you begin to look at some of the other grants that the Synod has to offer.
And
So,
thank you very much for doing this.
You're welcome.
I realized we started without a prayer. And I'm looking at my friend Jennifer Rodriguez, and I'd like to ask you, Jennifer, if you would pray us out as we all leave this meeting.
Let us pray. Gracious God, thank you for this time and the opportunity that you give us to be connected with you, and all the ideas that we have to connect with you, with the community, with the world. At this moment, we ask you for your blessing, esa bendición que nos llevará y nos guiará with your light, with your wisdom, with your peace. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Good night.
Amen.
Right.
Thank you.